The auction ground smelled of dust, animals, and desperation. Cowboys gathered to trade livestock, grain, and tools, their laughter rough and careless. A faded sign hung crookedly from a post, promising bargains that stripped people of dignity as easily as coins from a pocket. That was where Jacob Hale, a quiet cowboy in his mid-30s, heard the words that made his stomach tighten. "Buy 2 pigs, get the Apache slave for free." The phrase was shouted like a joke, tossed into the air with cruel ease. Jacob turned and saw her standing behind a pen, wrists bound loosely with rope, head lowered. She was thin, caked in dirt, hair tangled and matted from neglect. No one said her name. She was treated like excess cargo, something unwanted and uncounted. Jacob had come for supplies, not trouble. He had lived long enough on the frontier to know how quickly kindness could become a liability. But he also knew silence could be its own kind of violence. He watched as men glanced at the woman and laughed, some with curiosity, others with indifference. She did not look up. Her stillness felt practiced, learned through survival. He approached the seller, a man with sharp eyes and a voice too smooth. "What's her story?" Jacob asked. The man shrugged. "Found her with a raiding party that got scattered. She's no use to me. Won't talk much. Strong enough to work, though. Take her if you're buying." Jacob's jaw tightened. He looked back at the woman. Dirt masked her features, but he saw the tension in her shoulders, the way she braced for whatever came next. He thought of the land he worked, the small cabin by the creek, the chores that never ended. He thought of the line between complicity and action. "I'll take the pigs," he said, placing coins on the table. "And her." The rope was handed over like a receipt. Jacob cut it immediately. "You're not bound anymore," he said quietly, keeping his distance. "You don't owe me anything." She glanced up, startled by the sound of a blade freeing her wrists. Her eyes were dark, guarded, older than her years. She did not thank him. She did not speak. She simply watched him, measuring intent the way one measures weather. They walked away from the noise. Jacob led his horse, the pigs trailing reluctantly. The woman followed at a careful distance, ready to bolt if needed. He did not rush her. The road home stretched long and hot, the sky wide and indifferent. When they reached the cabin near dusk, Jacob pointed to a small shed. "You can rest there if you want," he said. "There's water by the creek. I'll leave some food." He went inside and busied himself with chores, giving her space. After a while, he heard the creek splash softly. He waited. When she returned, he noticed the water had darkened where she had washed her hands. Dirt clung stubbornly elsewhere. He hesitated, then spoke from the doorway. "There's a wash tub inside," he said. "If you want, I'll be outside." She stared at him, suspicion etched deep. She set out soap, a towel, clean clothes he kept for guests who rarely came. Then he stepped away, chopping wood until his arms ached, counting the rhythm of the axe to steady his thoughts. Insects sang. When he returned, she stood near the door, wrapped in a clean shirt, hair damp and loose. The dirt was gone. In its absence, her features emerged, not as a spectacle, but as a person returning to herself. Her face was calm, eyes alert, posture straighter. "My name is Ayanna," she said, voice soft but steady. "I'm Jacob," he replied. He offered her stew. She ate slowly, as if unused to being unhurried. He sat across from her, not staring, not asking questions she wasn't ready to answer. The fire crackled. Outside, the creek whispered. Over the next days, Jacob showed her the land. He did not set rules. He explained options. "You can stay as long as you want," he said. "You can leave whenever you want." He offered work if she wished, and payment if she chose it. He made it clear that freedom was not a favor to be revoked. Ayanna listened. She tested boundaries cautiously. She helped with small tasks, learning the rhythms of the place. She spoke little at first, then more as trust took root. She told him about her people, about the day she was taken during a chaotic skirmish, about the weeks of being treated as an object rather than a human being. Jacob listened without interruption. He did not try to fix the past. He focused on the present, on safety, on respect, on rebuilding something simple and solid. One afternoon, a neighbor rode by and made a remark that cut the air sharp and ugly. Jacob stepped forward calmly, placing himself between the words and Ayanna. "That won't be tolerated here," he said. The neighbor scoffed, then left. Ayanna watched, absorbing the meaning of the stance more than the words. As weeks passed, the work changed her body and her spirit. Strength returned. Laughter came unexpectedly one morning when a pig escaped, and Jacob chased it into the creek. She laughed and covered her mouth, surprised by the sound. He laughed too, embarrassed and grateful. She began to sing while working, low melodies carried by the wind. Jacob asked once what they meant. "They remember who we are," she said, "even when the world forgets." One evening, Ayanna stood by the creek at sunset. "I won't be owned again," she said, not accusing, simply stating a truth. "I wouldn't ask you to be," Jacob replied. She nodded. "Then I will stay, for now." The choice mattered. It changed everything. Winter came early. They prepared together, stacking wood, mending fences. The cabin felt less empty, not because of romance or promises, but because of shared purpose. They spoke of the future in careful terms, of helping others when possible, of trading fairly, of standing against cruelty even when it was inconvenient. When spring returned, Ayanna decided to visit nearby camps, to reconnect, to offer help where she could. Jacob,